Tonight's event features the three candidates for Lincoln Parish Sheriff: current Louisiana Tech University Police Chief Randall Hermes, former Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Deputy George Webb, and current Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Chief Criminal Deputy Stephen Williams. The subsequent forums will feature the candidates for Lincoln Parish Police Jury, the seats that are contested, as well as Parish Assessor and Clerk of Court. We at the Ruston Leader are excited to host these forums because we do believe that interaction with candidates is one of the best way for you, the voters, to make your decisions as you prepare to go to the polls. We also thank our partners and our sponsor tonight, Origin Bank, the Lincoln Parish Library for providing this place, and maybe most of all, Uptown Downtown for providing the food and or supper that we had out there in the foyer earlier this afternoon. Just a couple of housekeeping announcements before we get started. First, the restrooms are in the foyer out this door right here. And in the event, unlikely event, but that we should have to evacuate this building for some reason, the emergency exit's over here and the main exit is out here in the foyer. Okay, here's the format for tonight, and this will be the same format for those of you who we hope will attend the other forums as well. All of the questions that we're asking tonight are coming from you. Candidates, we have your questions up here, and folks, we have a ton of fantastic questions for which we thank you immensely. My coworker Caleb and I were sitting yesterday worrying what we were going to do if we didn't have that. We wasted that time worrying because we have really good questions, and thank you very much for doing that. I can tell you, however, we won't get to all of them, so if we don't get to yours and you still want to visit with the candidates about it, feel free to do so after the forum. Candidates, you will have 2 minutes to answer each question. Every one of you will answer the same question, and then we'll move on to whatever's next. This is not a debate. So we'll rotate so that not everybody's always first, not everybody's always last, not everybody's always in the middle when to answer a question. The timekeepers who are down here with the giant computer screen will hold up a green paddle. Anne-Marie, you're going to hold up our lovely green paddle at the 1 minute mark. That means you're halfway through with your answer. And a red paddle at the 2 minute mark. If you're in mid-sentence, when time's called, finish the sentence only. That clock's going to be ticking down. No poem paragraphs, no run-on sentences, wherever you are.
Watch the clock.
Watch clock, yeah. Well, there you go. Wait a minute. Take, reset.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, reset. Hang on. Anyway, audience, please refrain from applause or remarks during the program because that would take away from our candidates' time to visit with you, and we will indeed applaud all of them and thank them for putting themselves in front of all of us as candidates at the end of the evening. Okay, timekeepers, are you ready? All right. And these are in no real particular order. Okay, candidates, we will start the first question. We're going to start with Mr. Hermes. Here is the question. What is the most important quality in a sheriff?
Start the clock. I believe the most important quality for somebody who wants to be sheriff is to be able, number one, to get along with people, to be approachable, to be having a servant type attitude, and to be out to connect and communicate with the people. It's important to me that, I mean, this is great that I'm seeing so many people here. And I know that we're limited by the size of the parking lot for how many people are in this room, but the fact that y'all are all here means a lot to me. I'm sure it means a lot to the other candidates. But that is what one of my main goals and focus is going to be as sheriff, is to get out in the community, talk to the people, solicit information, and work from there and share information. I think that is something that we've been missing for a long time. I've been in law enforcement now for, a lot of you know, I've been in law enforcement for just over 42 years in this community, and I've learned a lot during that time. And so one thing that I think that we have been missing out on is connecting with our community, bringing you into this whole factor of safety for our entire community. We've done it at Louisiana Tech. We've done it really well at Louisiana Tech, and it's something that I can bring to the parish and the different communities, Grambling, Shudron, Simsboro, and Dubach. I think they get left out often, and I am the kind of person who likes to bring people together. A lot of y'all know that. I've been having public safety meetings for the last 15 years, every month, and that's our way of bringing our public safety officials together, communicating, and being accountable to each other. I think that's really important. I didn't even see that.
Lights the clock.
It's okay, it makes that noise.
Yeah, okay. All right, reset.
I don't know.
I don't know. There we go. Mr. Webb, the same question for you. What is the most important quality in a sheriff?
I'm gonna say what he said. No, I believe experience is a good quality. I have 27 years experience with the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office. I've proven my leadership before as a lieutenant on in investigations. We had an excellent crime solvability rate the whole time I was there. I can talk to people. I'm approachable. I don't mind getting out and getting my hands dirty and visiting with people. I'll go all over this parish visiting with people. I hear a lot of complaints from people about they just don't see enough visibility of our patrol deputies out in the far outreaches of the parish. We're gonna make that happen, and I think the right sheriff will make that happen. And I think I have those qualifications to make that happen. Like I said, we're going to be transparent at the sheriff's office. If somebody wants to come talk to me, I want to talk to them. If they've got some problems they want to talk about, we definitely want to try to fix those problems. We'll have some meetings out in the parish at the different communities, like Shudron, Dubach, Diana, Simsboro. I want the input of the people of the parish. The sheriff's office represents the people of Lincoln Parish. The people of Lincoln Parish should be able to have input on what's going on with that sheriff's office. We need to get out and meet the people so the people will know our deputies. And I think that's all. I cut myself 15 seconds short.
Mr. Williams?
I think that the same qualities that make a good sheriff are the same qualities that make a good patrol deputy. Being able to listen to people and consider their facts and consider what they need. And part of my job at the sheriff's office is to visit with people that come into the office and deal with their problems. And 99% of the time, they don't even really need you to do anything. They just want to be able to sit back and tell you their complaints, get it off their chest, and then get some advice from you on how you would recommend they handle their things. Being able to listen to your constituents, being able to listen to your employees is a super, super important part of the job. A lot of what I do as your chief deputy is just act as a sounding board for employees. They're going through a lot. They have the same problems that everybody else has. They have money problems, relationship problems, and on top of that, they got to worry about somebody trying to take their life from time to time and dealing with people that, for the most part, a lot of what they deal with, people are very ungrateful for what they do. So I would put being able to, a good listener and having some compassion at the top of that list.
Okay. Next question, and Mr. Webb, this goes first to you, and here it is. How important is it for law enforcement to foster relationships with the community? If so, how would you go about accomplishing that? And if it's not important, why is it important?
Well, it kind of goes with the last question, but we have to foster a relationship with the people. The people of the parish can be some of our best eyes for crimes that are taking place out in the parish. If we don't have a good relationship with our people, if they don't trust the sheriff's office, we're gonna have problems. So we need to foster that relationship with all the people of Lincoln Parish so they will trust us and can come to us with information that's going on. I want to enhance the neighborhood watch program and make it better where each community will have a neighborhood watch program to help us watch over the citizens. We have a lot of senior citizens live out in the parish. A lot of them are the further outreaches of the parish. And, you know, if you've got 6 deputies covering the parish, we can't cover everything. We can't be everywhere at the same time. So fostering a good relationship with the community is top priority of mine. I'm going to really push hard for our patrol deputies and the other deputies to bring that back to the sheriff's office, because we've been lacking that for quite some time.
Mr. Williams?
Part of the sheriff's office that we do, sorry, this mic is either in or out. Sheriff's office has many different avenues to communicate with the public. We have many neighborhood watch programs right now, to be quite honest with you. In today's busy society, it's really hard to get people to attend them. To offset that, many of the communities or subdivisions here in town and outer parts of the parish have a app on their phone. You know, I know Stoke Creek has just a neighborhood watch app or community watch where they communicate back and forth about everything from dogs to lost UPS packages. We've also gone to an app for the sheriff's office where we push information out. We have a Facebook that has 8,500 followers, I believe, where we communicate with the public on that. We're also, in addition to that, a few months ago, we went to a Nextdoor app, which allows us to grandfather in and be able to communicate with the different neighborhood apps in that area. They can also communicate with us. We've fostered 3 or 4 national night out events where we cook hot dogs, hamburgers, had jumpies for the kids and different programs trying to get the public in, get them interested in law enforcement and meet the deputies. My answer to that was we're currently and have been and we still will do those programs.
Yeah, and then to Mr. Hermes, and our tech folks say, Mr. Hermes, Mr. Webb, if y'all will hold the mics a little closer so they can hear you in the back. Okay, and the question again. Hang on, let me find it. No, it didn't. How important is it for law enforcement to foster relationships with the community? If so, how would you go about accomplishing that?
That is something that we talked about just a minute ago. That is the missing piece that we have right now in public safety, and it's not just in Lincoln Parish. I think it's in every community. We have to reach out to y'all. We can't depend on y'all to come in if you want something. We have to be out there. And the way I would do that is several ways, and I've heard it mentioned. I know that the Wesley Chapel has I think they were maybe one of the first to have a neighborhood Facebook going around. So we could create those in a lot of different neighborhoods, and we would assign a deputy to monitor each one of those particular Facebook groups, and that way they could see what's going on, what they're talking about, step in if they need to, or go check on it, you know, if there's some misinformation out there. I would host and will host monthly meetings in different parts of the parish, invite people to come to those, bring some food so it'll help bring people out, and they will be what I would refer to, for lack of a better term, as sheriff meetings. Bring deputies into those meetings, allow them to talk to you, bring those deputies down out of their cars, and let you meet them. That's another thing that we used to have a long time ago. It just seems like we've lost that touch. We have the time to do that, and we can do it. It just takes a little bit of effort on our part. It won't cost a dime. Just take a little bit of gas to get out there, set the meetings up. It would be a great opportunity to solicit feedback, to ask you, what are we doing right, and what are we not doing right? What do you need? What do you need from us? Thank you.
All right. And the question number 3, we'll start with Mr. Williams. And it is, what plans do you have to support school security in our parish schools?
In 2004, when Sheriff Stone took office, he, one of his vows that he had campaigned on was to put school resource officers into school. At the time, we contacted the city police department and were unable to get any assistance from that department. We added school resource officers a little along the way, and we now currently have 7. We have a full coverage at the junior high, the high schools, and we have rotating coverage at the elementary schools on a kind of a part-time basis, kind of a revolving door. I've long since been involved in this, and one of my vows is to, day one of my administration, I will add to that. Part of what I've done since becoming chief deputy is eliminated 8 positions on office staff through attrition and restructuring. With a savings of $750,000 when you add in the benefits package, salaries and cars and stuff like that, and consolidating some of our business expense. That money will go towards adding more school resource officers day one.
All right, and Mr. Hermes?
Well, in 2004, I was the police chief in Ruston when Sheriff Stone took office. My mic, somebody's turned off. I think George turned my mic off.
You gotta get closer.
Close?
There you go.
Okay, good.
Eat it.
Yeah, so what I was saying, in 2004, I was the Ruston police chief when Sheriff Stone took office, and I don't remember the conversation, but to tell you the truth, we wouldn't have had the manpower at that time, and I think the city police don't have the manpower now to be putting anybody anywhere, but handling calls that are happening in the city of Ruston. We did have juvenile officers who pretty much stayed at Ruston High and responded anytime there was a problem there. There's still some discussion. I mean, there were DARE officers. There was still some discussion as far as, you know, did you need police officers out there walking the halls? But now, you know, we know how it is now, and we do need security in those schools. And, you know, I don't want to hurt Mr. Milstead's feelings about his half-cent sales tax proposal that he's got, but my intention will be to provide security, armed security, in all of those schools. It doesn't have to be one of our commissioned deputies. It can be a retired deputy, a retired police officer. It could be a vet. It could be a reserve officer, but it would be somebody who would be trained by us, It wouldn't be just somebody who has a concealed carry permit. It would be somebody who is trained by our trainers and who maintain that training, and is commissioned sworn in, and so that the liability would cover them, and we would take care of it that way. I think it's a good way to handle it, and let people in the community know. It's kind of like the school marshal program that Texas has. Let people in the community know. If we have to post a sign on the fence, there are people here who are armed. They aren't necessarily in uniform, but there are people here who are armed. And since they would be commissioned, since they would be sworn in, it wouldn't be a problem with them being in a gun-free zone because they would be sworn deputies. Thank you.
Mr. Webb?
From day one, school safety, security has always been a priority to me. I believe that we need, or we will have, security in every school in the Lincoln Parish, in the school system if I'm elected. I believe that right now we're teaching DARE in school, which is a resource officer is actually teaching DARE. That takes away from the security of the school when that resource officer is in the classroom teaching DARE. He's not walking the halls, he's not walking outside. So we're going to look at some more options to work with that. Also, a school resource officer can be a good for the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office in general, because we want our resource officers to be able to communicate with our children in our schools and show them that we care about them, and we want the children to be able to go to our resource officer to share information or to trust us also. But I believe the security part is the utmost. We've got to do the security, and I believe that we need to, like I said, need to do more than just teaching DARE with our SROs. We need to be a full security, and like Mr. Hermes said, I'm maybe not sworn deputies to do all our security. We have retired military that would like to have jobs like that we could assign to a school that that have some training in security. So I think that could be a real benefit to us and give them a job also. So we're gonna look at several different options, but I can promise you, we will have security in every school in Lincoln Parish. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Webb, the next question, you're up first on it.
All right.
And that question, here's the next question. If elected sheriff, would you consider privatizing the Lincoln Parish Detention Center? Why or why not?
Absolutely not. That, from day one, I've never even thought about privatizing the Lincoln Parish Detention Center. We need that. We need to keep control of that detention center. One reason is we have some employees out there that have built up some tenure as far as retirement with the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office. They have good benefits. They didn't have that when LaSalle Management was running the jail. They were employees of LaSalle Management. So now they have a retirement, they have health benefits, and they are settled in and they're doing a good job there. Second thing is, if one of my investigators want to go check out some guy that's a prisoner over there and take him riding around the parish and let him point out homes he's broken into, something, I don't want to have to go through LaSalle Management to get one of my prisoners out of jail. So if I'm the sheriff, we're not going to have a problem with that. We'll just go get them and we'll take them out right. But it's critical that we keep that prison under the sheriff's office umbrella. And I will say it again, those rumors have been out there. I have never thought about turning that over. Thank you.
Mr. Hermes.
Was rumors around there about you? While I was Ruston Police Chief for over 14 years, I was on the Detention Center Commission. For many of those years before I retired, I was the chairman of that commission. And I spent every morning, I would stop by the detention center and help any way that I could. We were in a transition with the superintendent at the jail, and so I needed to be out there a lot just to make sure that what was going on and everything was running smoothly and help handle any problems that were out there. Almost every evening, I looked through the head count sheet to see who maybe we could let out. Who maybe we could let out on our ROR, on a release on their own recognizance, so we would have room to put somebody in off the street. So these guys were working on the street, would be able to put somebody in that was maybe committing a domestic violence, or that they caught doing a burglary or something like that. I would let out people that were in jail for maybe disturbing the peace or simple drunk or something like that. Never let anybody out, of course, that had committed a battery or some kind of felony on somebody. I was staunchly against privatization of that detention center, but when I retired, it happened. I don't blame anybody for that. It was the decision the commission made, and that's that. I think that there was some education and some learning that occurred from that, and now Sheriff Stone is operating that detention center under the authority of the commission as by law, and with the increase in jail space and the keeping the DOC prisoners, that brings in enough revenue to be able to keep the budget in the red or in the black, and I think that it's where it should be right now, and I would keep that jail under control of the sheriff. Thank you.
And Mr. Williams.
Absolutely not. I would not privatize the jail. I was involved in the acquisition of the jail. Took part in all the interviews of the employees that were there, deciding which ones to keep, which ones we would rather not. Been involved from time to time with it since then. Many years whenever we were at the courthouse, I would come to work on a Friday night and have a sticky note up on the wall that said, "No room at the jail," or "You can arrest one person tonight." That's no way to operate a business. There's no way to operate a law enforcement agency. Since we've taken it over, the jail is operated in the black. We have some really good employees there. We have actually, several of our patrol deputies are former jailers. They get hired on there, start there at the jail, and kind of can show us what they do and what they're about. And it's proved to be a really good training ground for the road deputies. Not to mention, You get a deputy that's worked in that jail, when he gets out, he already knows 98% of his clientele by name, nickname, and by face. They make excellent road deputies. They're dealing with the same people, most of the people, over and over and over, and that's proved to be very beneficial to us. We actually send those jailers to Post Academy and get them post-certified as peace officers while they're still there working in the jail. They work a lot of overtime stuff, be it the rest area detail. We guard the rest areas, each rest area every night, 365 days a year. We work ball games at schools, college games, everything. We provide security for the whole community, and a lot of that is using those employees there. So absolutely not, I would not.
All right. And Mr. Williams, the next question, you're first up again. And it is this. Mr. Williams, if you are elected sheriff, how do you think you could save taxpayers money and still provide effective law enforcement service?
I started that about 18 months ago, 24 months ago, when I was first put in charge of the criminal division of the sheriff's office. First thing I did was I sold 31 excess cars that were parked at the range in Simsboro. Got rid of them, got rid of the insurance we were paying on them. Shortly after that, I started looking at different ways to save money and moved all of our acquisition of car parts and light bars, cameras for the cars, all that stuff. We were shopping for all of that in Bossier, driving back and forth, Shreveport, driving back and forth to Shreveport, dropping off cars, picking them up. I reached out to the community here, to several businesses, and created a partnership, and we now get all that stuff done a half mile from the sheriff's office. That in itself has saved anywhere from $75,000 to $100,000 a year, and I can't tell you how many miles it saved and hours of pay for people going back and forth to Shreveport. I will continue looking at things like that. I've dissolved 8 positions in the department through restructuring, and every day we continue to look at ways to save money.
And Mr. Webb, same question. If you were elected sheriff, how do you think you can save taxpayers money and still provide effective law enforcement service?
First thing I would do is we have a separate narcotics building where our drug enforcement works. I would get rid of that building and move them to our main sheriff's office. And the reason for that is there's no reason for us to maintain 2 separate buildings and a staff at that building, and we have when we have a building that has empty offices in it at this time. When we work thefts, investigations, generally most of those people are doing thefts or burglaries or doing narcotics also. So if we have to, our investigators need to be able to share information without having to drive from one location to the other. If we're all under one roof, we can share information that way without having to drive across town or call somebody. That would be a huge savings to the parish and to the sheriff's office to get rid of that building and put everybody under one roof. Also, the sheriff's office provides cell phones to all the deputies. And just about every deputy has their own cell phone. And when I was in investigations, 9 times out of 10, if you called a deputy on a work issue cell phone, they would never answer it. So we can get rid of them. As most people know out there, a cell phone plan is pretty expensive. So let's get rid of that. Also, we have some non-essential, non-emergency employees. Let me restate that. They are essential, but they're not on call 24 hours and for emergencies that have take-home vehicles right now. We're going to get rid of some of those vehicles because there's no reason for everybody that works at the sheriff's office, or nearly everybody, to have a take-home vehicle. My money's worth it.
And Mr. Hermes.
This is really pretty interesting setting up here, by the way. I want to applaud the sheriff's office for taking steps that they have and save taxpayers some money that probably shouldn't have ever happened to start with. I'm glad to see that Sheriff Stone has done that, and he's listened to one of his guys, which that is the important thing with being a leader of a department, that you talk to your people and that you allow your people to give you information and say, how can we save money? Ask them, let them feel comfortable with coming to the leader of the department and saying what they think. Because these guys, we hire a lot of really smart people, and there's a lot of sharp guys working out there at that sheriff's office, as there is at all these other law enforcement agencies. And if you let them know that it's okay for them to come and tell you, and they know that you want to know how can we save some money, they'll tell you. Now, personnel is the highest part of the budget. I think it's usually about 73 to 80% of a budget wherever you are. Both the departments that I've been in, it's that way. And typically, there are people who get at the top end and they get ready to retire, and they retire, and that's when you decide, are you going to replace somebody in that position with that same type of salary? It usually, you know how it is, it usually doesn't happen that way. So that's a big way that the departments just naturally save money through that attrition process. But honestly, we've been called upon as law enforcement officers in this community to do more and more, really, and y'all know this. And you want us to do more. You want us to be everywhere. And when we do that, it's going to cost something. It's going to cost some overtime. We may be able to, to do comp time or something like that, but usually it's going to be an overtime situation, which is more expensive. And I think that we're in really good shape out there with the money and the revenue that's coming into that department to be able to handle what needs to be handled for our community.
All right, next question, Mr. Hermes, you're up first on this one. During your service in law enforcement, and this is the same for each one of you. During your service in law enforcement, what have you done to combat drug use and drug dealers in our parish?
Well, when I started, I almost hate to say how long ago that was. When I started in 1977, it was pulling people over on the side of the road and happened to run into somebody with a bag of weed in it, and go through that kind of situation. So that was just the regular patrol kind of response. It was a big deal, back then to go after that kind of thing. In 1981, I had the privilege and the honor of being selected to be one of the first members of the multi-jurisdictional task force here in Lincoln Parish, and there's another one of them in the room, Joey Davidson, sitting back there, he is back there. Chief Thompson and Sheriff Howe and DA Atkins knew how important it was that when you start a multi-jurisdictional task force, the guys have to be able to get along. Well, they knew that Joey and I could already get along. We worked out together, and we kind of we worked together for a long time. And so we started that task force that still exists today. And that is something to the credit of Chief Thompson, Chief Hammond, myself, Sheriff Howe, Sheriff Stone, and DA Bob Levy, and District Attorney John Belton. While I was the police chief, I made sure that we had 2 officers from our department, 2 investigators, always assigned to that task force. Supported them with whatever equipment they needed, and honestly, one of the reasons that we put them in a different building was because they had a lot of informants that would come from time to time to see them. And we really didn't need those informants coming to our office, because there was other people at City Hall or they were already scared enough to come in and see an investigator. So I would continue that. While I've been at Louisiana Tech, we train RAs to look for drugs in the dormitories, and in many occasions they find drugs and they call our office, our Tech police officers, and we will, in some sense, we will respond and handle that. Thank you.
Mr. Williams.
In 1993, I signed on as a rookie sheriff deputy and was always kind of drawn to the lure of catching drug dealers. I pulled over and stopped over hundreds of violators on I-20 and removed over 1,000 pounds of narcotics in I-20 in my career. I worked undercover in Monroe and surrounding agencies buying narcotics undercover from would-be drug dealers. I worked at LPNet, worked as a K-9 deputy, worked at LPNet for a number of years, and during the period that I was there, the numbers doubled, if not tripled, where they were whenever I started. Went back to LPNet in 2013 as the supervisor there, and during that time we worked with DEA, U.S. Marshals, and the FBI, and worked the largest drug case ever worked in the history of Lincoln Parish. We stopped an organization that was smuggling 4 to 6 kilos of cocaine here every month through wiretaps, surveillance, helicopters, airplanes, the whole 9 yards. It was a regional area coming all the way from Mexico to Houston, Dallas, and here and on to Monroe. Touching on what was said a while ago, you absolutely cannot work narcotics out of the sheriff's office building. You went over there yesterday to do some stuff, and they were bringing informants in, bringing suspects in. The way you work that is you roll some of those suspects that you've arrested and create them into informants. That building has its purpose. Also, in regards to our federal cases that we worked, we created a partnership to where DEA called me 2 months ago, and they're going to come in and subsidize the LPNet task force. Everybody there will be a DEA task force officer. They're sending them all to Quantico, Virginia, and they're going to pump about $150,000 a year in resources into that business. It's going to open up a whole new world for us on intel, resources, vehicles, 3 more vehicles that we'll remove, fuel cards to go along with those. It's a big deal for us in the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office.
We remind you again to hold your applause till the end. And Mr. Webb, your answer, please, sir.
Well, narcotics is very critical. I've never been assigned to the narcotics task force, but like Stephen Williams said, I started with the sheriff's office back in 1990, and I always was drawn to getting out on the interstate or in different areas of town and try to find drugs after midnight. Matter of fact, he and I have chased a few suspects down the middle of the interstate before we're down the meeting late at night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I have seized hundreds of pounds of marijuana myself while working criminal patrol on my own. Back when I worked for Wayne Houck, he did not have a criminal patrol division at the time I was working. So we would just go out at night on our own, and it's just kind of like deer hunting. You just get out there and hunt for it and know what to look for. It was actually a little bit of fun at the time. But I know what it takes to make a narcotics case. I've been around it long enough, and that's not a problem. In 2016, while I was an investigator, I would go out and work a detail on the interstate writing tickets. I made several drug arrests then. One of them was 4 kilos of 99% pure methamphetamine that come out of Mexico or South Texas, worth close to $1 million on the street value. We took it to federal court, went to trial on it. I testified in that trial. We won that trial. So I have experience in narcotics, although I've never been assigned to a narcotics task force. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hermes, and this next one will begin with you. If elected sheriff, what plans would you have for the current sheriff's department staff? And most of that is, would you keep them or not?
I think a bunch of them are here.
Well,
I plan to keep everybody that is on staff right now, as of this time, when elected sheriff. And I know a lot of the deputies, and have known a lot of the deputies for some time. I actually hired some of them whenever I was Ruston PD, and they left Ruston PD and went to the sheriff's office. I know that they're a really good professional group, and as far as I'm concerned, they're all very welcome to stay. I have to admit there may be some value changes that we do at the sheriff's department and the way we do business and the way we we bring the serve back to protect and serve. And that's going to be important to me, and I think that's something that's going to be important to those deputies too. I think that will make their lives a lot easier when they know that we're going to be communicating with our population and our public, and we're going to be out working closely with them. It really helps you in law enforcement when you are able to connect with people. But in any case, as far as I'm concerned, they're all welcome to stay. But that train's gonna be moving, and they're gonna have to get on the train with us.
And Mr. Webb?
I plan on keeping everyone that's on the staff right now. I understand there's a few of the older deputies are planning on retiring, so that would leave some spots to fill with some of the people that I want to put in those spots. But I have no problem with the deputies. I work closely with those deputies, a lot of them, some of them for 27 years that were there when I came there. Some of them came all along afterwards. I don't have any problem with them. I'm not going to say that every one of them will be doing the same thing that they're doing now. Of course, there would be some kind of personnel changes with my administration. But everybody that's employed at the sheriff's office right now that wants to stay will have a job. I know that's been rumors out there that, it's going to clean house from the front to the back. You can't do that because you got to replace people if you get rid of them. There's not a whole lot of people wanting to go to work in law enforcement now. The state police is even doing recruiting on social media now. They never had to do that. They had plenty of people wanting to go work. There's just not a lot of people that want to go to work in law enforcement now. So any candidate that would be foolish to be telling people they're going to fire people when you have deputies that are qualified and have been to school and they're doing a good job. We need to keep them. And I would love to have every one of them stay on my staff. But like Mr. Hermes said, I want to get them to think like I do and do the job that I want them to do. So, thank you very much.
And Mr. Williams?
I can't say enough good things about the staff of the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office. Vast majority of that staff signed an ad for me, an endorsement ad supporting me as sheriff. For those of you that don't know, our ID cards expire June 30th of 2020. Our job ends. Any one of us get elected, they don't have to fire anybody. All they have to do is not hire them because our jobs expire. And for the vast majority of that department to put their name on the line in an endorsement ad, put their neck out there for me, I tell you, I can't. They're more than staff, they're family. They're family to me. And I'll be bringing no one with me. We're going to continue moving that train down the road with what we have. We have some brilliant people. Very brilliant people there. We're not like most departments. A lot of departments around here are short. A lot of the sheriff's offices around here right now are working tonight with 2 people on the road. We don't have that problem because we take care of our staff. We treat them like they're somebody, and we know that they're somebody, and they're all staying.
All right. And next question, excuse me. Next question, Mr. Webb, you're first up. What are your thoughts about body cameras for officers?
I think they're great. It's a great idea. A body camera is just like having another witness on the scene. Traffic stops can go bad. Any kind of call, service call that we go on can go bad. If you've got that body camera on, that's just like a witness for you. A lot of times when you stop somebody on the highway, say a traffic stop, there's usually 3 stories. There's their story, there's the deputy's story, and there's the truth. That body camera can go either way. It could help the deputy, it could help the offender. I think that's a very valuable tool that we need, and I don't know if they're using it right now. I've been away from the sheriff's office for 2 years right now, but I agree that's a very valuable tool.
Mr. Williams?
I would like to explore getting body cameras. I agree too with Mr. Webb. They are beneficial. We have approximately 30 car cameras right now running, and we spend $50,000 to $70,000 a year in storage for that video. I don't know where the cloud is, but it's very expensive. The body cameras, if you were just to outfit our patrol guys, you're looking at about $6,500, $7,000 a piece. And then, like I say, you get ready for $100,000 a year in storage. I would love to go there, and we may do that and implement it as as needed or as we can afford it, kind of ease into it. But to be honest with you, with our car cameras, maybe once a month do we have to review a videotape to settle some kind of disagreement or a he said, she said kind of thing. We have very, very, very few complaints with our departmental personnel and the way that they treat the public. Very few. Thank you.
And Mr. Hermes.
Well, in the early 2000s, when I was at Ruston PD, we installed the first car camera systems in Ruston police units. And I have to admit, it was dragging those guys tooth and nail because they didn't really feel like they wanted somebody looking over their shoulder. But honestly, and as Mr. Webb pointed out, they supported everything that those officers did. 99.9% of the time, they fully supported what happened out there on the street. And we had complaints at Ruston PD from time to time. But it was a good way to document what happened, especially on a traffic stop. So for the last 3 years at Louisiana Tech PD, and we have 18 police officers that are commissioned. All of our people who work on the street have body cameras. We purchased them 3 years ago. I think they're somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 or $500 a piece. It's not that expensive to do. And the cloud is not, we haven't found it to be that bad, but the transparency that it gives the community to know that we are using those body cameras, and you know, I don't know, I really don't get it that Dallas PD wears body cameras, LA PD wears body cameras, New York PD, all of these, Chicago PD. I mean, is there something going on that they figured out that we can't do here? It's going to happen. It's coming. When I'm elected sheriff, that is one of the first things that's going to happen. And our road deputies will be proud to have them, I guarantee you. You can collect evidence, you take statements, and it documents everything wherever you go, because you're not always in front of that police car, that deputy car. And I've seen that too many times, and we're all, maybe you get some audio, but that body camera, it supports those guys, and it supports our community.
Okay. All right, next question, Mr. Williams, you're first up. In this day and time, what do you believe you can bring to the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office that would enhance our community that no other administrator has brought thus far?
At this specific time, I can bring continuity and stability to the department. A lot of people don't realize, but not only is Sheriff Mike Stone leaving June 30th of 2020, our Chief Financial Officer Jerry Smith is leaving, and our Warden Jim Tootin is wanting to leave. The top 3 positions in that department are going to turn over at the same time. For a department of that size and for a community that we serve, I can offer stability and continuity that I don't feel like the others could at this time.
Mr. Hermes?
I can bring a new attitude from the leadership department, leadership for the sheriff's office. Sheriff Stone is a great guy. He does it his way. I do things my way. And I believe in valuing our employees, and I will value all of our employees, and I will listen to them. And when I get in there and I can assess what's going on, I've moved from one department to another already. I know how it is to have a new office and to have to work through the beginnings of working at a department. But I bring 26 years of leading a law enforcement agency, from the 14 years plus 14 years that I was the head of Ruston PD, and now 12 years at Louisiana Tech PD. I know what it's like. I know what law enforcement officers are like. I know how it is to have to recruit, select, train, equip, monitor, supervise, help, and take care of those guys. And I will do that with the sheriff's office. And I will bring to that sheriff's office all of my years and all of my experiences and my perspective. And I think that it's going to be a good change for our community. Thank you.
And Mr. Webb?
I'm going to bring experience, leadership, qualities. We're going to keep working to do the job that we are supposed to do, we are paid to do by the citizens of Lincoln Parish. Like I said, I'm gonna push real hard for our patrol deputies to get to know the public and get that feedback. And we want the public to trust us. That's very, very, very important for a law enforcement agency, besides the sheriff's office, is for the public to trust us and believe in us and know that when they call for service, that we're coming. No matter what the call for service is, if they call and ask for service, I'm gonna see that our deputies are gonna show up at that. And if they don't, we're gonna have to sit down and talk about it, because the public pays taxes. And they want the sheriff's office, when they ask for the sheriff's office to come to talk to them, hey, I've been to people calling, they had a snake in the house, or they thought they had a snake in the house when I was on patrol. We're gonna go to those calls. If they've got a stray dog in the yard, we need to go on those calls and see if we can help them. Wayne Houck always said, Sheriff Wayne Houck said, if a person took the time to pick up that phone to call and need somebody and see a deputy, you better send the deputy and they better go no matter what. I'm gonna see that happens when I become sheriff, because I want the people to have faith in the Lincoln Parish Sheriff's Office, and we're gonna do that if I get elected.
Okay, next question is just a little tad of a change of pace, and it's a two-parter. And Mr. Williams, you're first up this time. Have all, and I gather that this means campaign, whoever just submitted this, all campaign signs been approved by the landowner or put up arbitrarily? And is there a log documenting where they are when it comes time to take them down? You gotta have a little fun every now and then, gang, come on.
I haven't gone through great lengths on where I put my campaign signs to make sure they were well off the right-of-way. So much to the point that I actually have some of my competitors that put theirs between mine and the road. As far as a law, we all received an email from DOTD as well as from the city of Ruston mandating a couple of just criteria about where you could put them and where you couldn't put them. I've done my best to adhere to that and even err on the side of caution. And I, for one, and I think I can speak for these other men up here, I can't wait to take mine down. It's been a long haul, but I think I answered that.
Mr. Webb?
Well, I have seen a few on the right-of-ways, but I haven't seen any of mine, so I don't know about that. I will say I have seen some of them, but we won't call any names. If you see one of my yard signs in somebody's yard, they ask for it. I don't go around asking people if I can put signs in their yard. They request them. My big signs, I got permission from landowners. And sometimes you have to go online to track those people down, because a lot of them don't even live here in Lincoln Parish. But it's a lot of hard work getting signs up. I built every one of them myself, by myself, every one of them. The wood frames, I actually have a sawmill, so I cut all my own lumber so I can save money. I saved $4,000, I think. A lot of sweat in that, but if I don't win this election, we're gonna have a big bonfire. If I win, I'll run again, and I'm gonna have to figure out where I'm gonna store all these things. So I don't know what else to say about that. But it's been fun. It's a lot of work, and I'm ready for October 12th to get here, and let's see what's gonna happen. Thank you.
Mr. Hermes?
Is the second part of that, is there a law?
Yeah, is there a log documenting where the signs are located?
And that's what I thought.
In other words, do you know where they are?
We did for a long time, but you do kind of lose track when you hand out signs for people to go put out. And I think maybe sometimes, and I think this has happened in all of our supporters, the people that are helping us, maybe they got some extra signs and they get tired and it's like, let's get them out of my car, let's stick them in the ground, whatever. I see them out there. Nobody's supposed to be having them on the right of way. We all know that, but I mean, I know y'all have seen them. as far as all of these large signs that we have, I know from what I've seen of all of our signs, they're on somebody's property. And, you know, somebody's not gonna let you put a sign like that on their property without saying it's okay. It's pretty big. Even Roy Glover's mules, they didn't like my sign. It was in his pasture. They kept on stomping it down. And we finally took it out. The mules didn't want it in there. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have any problem after this is over, cleaning up the parish. And it's not just us. I mean, how many other races are going on right now? It's gotten crazy. But appreciate y'all putting up with it. I'm just waiting for somebody to say, I got in a wreck because that sign was a vision obscuring. You know? And I really like the one that I have over in front of the sportsman that somebody spray painted the top and bottom and made me a ninja.
Okay. Meanwhile, back at the detention center, next question, and Mr. Webb, you're first up on this one. And it does concern the detention center. How will you work with the parish to assist inmates with transitional resources, such as classes, halfway homes, houses, etc., to help them start a life so we don't keep putting them in jail over and over again?
If I'm not mistaken, I know that at one time they had a GED program out there, which I think is a great program for the prisoners to get their GED. I think it would be great if we could, and I don't know what all is going on out there right now, but some carpentry classes would be great. Possibly even electrical classes, maybe making electrical apprentices, plumbing apprentices. If we can take some of those non-violent offenders and get them with people that will, if we can work out something where we can check them out of jail and get them assigned to a plumber or electrician so they can learn a skill. Now, all of those prisoners you can't do that with, and I don't even know how many we can do it with. But I believe that we need to try to rehabilitate as many as we can. I mean, you know, they're prisoners. They're just like me and you. We can't mistreat them just because they've broken the law. I think we need to do all we can to rehab them. I know Pastor Jerry Baldwin has a program where he gets some of these prisoners, gets them jobs, and they live in housing that he provides. And that seems to be a good program, and I visited with him about that. I also think some of these less violent offenders, I would love to work with the judicial system and see if we can do home incarceration. And that would free up some space in our jail to put more violent offenders. But that's just some things you have to work with the DA's office, the judge's office on that. Some of these guys have families that they got arrested for possession of marijuana, and they're having to serve 90 days or whatever before they even get a court appearance. So they need to be able to take care of their families, so maybe we could do something else. We'll look at different options. Thank you.
Mr. Hermes.
So that's a really big deal. I don't know who put that question out there, but that's an important part of what we do. And it's an important part of the criminal justice system that we really haven't paid that much attention to. So we always say that 10% of the population does 90% of the crimes. I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard that. All the law enforcement people, I guarantee you all the law enforcement people in here have heard those stats. So where else should we spend more of our time and effort than those 10%? And we're not going to be able to save everybody, but if we save a few of them, we've saved some of you from being victims of crimes. The inmate reentry into our community is worth really putting a lot of attention to. And we can do it through our probation office. We would have to probably add some manpower to our probation office, but we could monitor these people. We could let them enter these particular programs. There's some programs in the country that work. I've already done some of the research. And help them find jobs, check up on them, have them be accountable to somebody. You know, one of the biggest problems is they get back in the same neighborhood, hanging out with the same guys, and here we go again. I don't know what the recidivism rate is here. Mr. Williams may know, but it's usually somewhere in the neighborhood of 70%. And I mean, that's a big deal for us to target. That's that 10%. We can just go and really focus on building some kind of program that will help those people. And we can do it. There are programs out there that work, and it's just a matter of spending the time and paying the attention to it. I think that's a big deal for us in this parish.
And Mr. Williams?
We examined that and started that in 2013 when we took over the jail. At this time, we have 4 educational programs and many faith-based programs. We have, of course, the garden that everybody likes to come and shop at. That's also a way for those guys to get out there and get their hands dirty, so to speak, but to learn. They learn, you know, a lot of them just have never done anything productive where they've put work in and seen the results. We have the cabinet shop or woodworking shop there. A lot of those guys, once they're released, go on to find jobs in carpentry or construction. We also have the work release inmates that work in a lot of the different restaurants and stuff around here, or for construction companies. Several of them I know over the past couple of years have maintained those jobs once they're released. There's always room to do more, and like Chief Hermes said, the recidivism rate is very high. You know, we're trying to give them every opportunity, but need to understand that a lot of those inmates, depending on how they're classified, a pretrial inmate cannot do anything. Only a DOC sentenced inmate who is serving their sentence are eligible to participate in any programs. But they are mandated and guidelined by the state of Louisiana on whether or not they can even be out of that building, or they can be behind the 12-foot fence or a 10-foot fence or off the grounds. It's all regulated by the Department of Corrections. So there's a lot of guidelines and stipulations that we have to abide by for somebody to actually get out and participate in any programs. But believe me, we've been on that since July of 2013.
Okay, and we're coming to the end of the hour, but there's one area that we have not touched on, and that is this. And Mr. Hermes, you're up first on this one. What are your intentions regarding policing the dumpsters?
I want to add something to that last question. We keep a lot of Department of Correction prisoners here in our parish, in our jail, and the Department of Corrections provides a lot of the programs that those people get, and mandates that we use those programs, that they provide those programs out at the detention center. So that's really good, but it's that getting out and staying out and taking care of those people and helping them go the right way that's really important. As far as the dumpsters, I mean, I don't know how many miles I've ridden in this parish in the last 8 months, and for some reason, some of the dumpsters just, I mean, you could eat out of them. I mean, it's really nice. Some of them, it looks like people drive by and just chunk everything out of their car and it lands on the ground and it sits there for, you know, a week. Litter has always been a problem, and it's some of that broken windows theory stuff, you know, where if you leave it out there, it's telling people you don't care anything about this neighborhood or this area, and it just tends to have other people chunking litter out their windows and just, you know, making a mess. I will, with the neighborhood meetings that we will have, those particular areas, and it's an area problem. It's whoever lives around them that's got the problem. And I assure you, those residents will tell us, can y'all do something about those dumpsters over there? Well, we'll address it, whether they can put cameras there or having a special litter patrol, having somebody out there watching it, catching some people, but dealing with it. If the deputies notice what's going on, maybe we can create some litter patrol areas. I think I've seen in town, like where they'll have a sign that says this area is cleaned by, you know, this fraternity or that sorority. I think the people I see, Ronnie Valentine does it every day. I see him walking up and down that road. It's a shame he has to do it every day, but he's walking up every day, picking up trash on the side of the road. But
Mr. Williams, what would you do about that?
that should have been in the middle of the sentence.
When I was at LPNet 2013 to 2016, I kind of got a riff, a burr under my saddle, I guess you'd say, over the dumping. Took the guys from LP-Net, in a couple of hours evening, we would go down and work a particular set of dumpsters close to the Washington Parish line. In 2 weeks' time, literally working 90 minutes to 2 hours a day, we wrote 30 out-of-parish dumping tickets, arrested 2 felons, and made 3 drug cases. You can change people's habits by enforcement. As you said, you go by the dumpsters and they're clean 1 minute, you go back the next day and there's stuff piled around them, but most of that stuff, there's some stuff that gets dumped beside them, but a majority of that gets thrown out of them at night, people scavenging. Methamphetamine's a huge problem here, a huge problem. It makes you want to tweak and work on stuff. They will look high and low for a broke TV to take home and work on. Anything electronic, they're drawn to it. Fans, they're just drawn to it. But a lot of that is just people pilfering through the dumpsters, throwing stuff out, but it can be changed with enforcement. The police jury should be applauded for the mega sites. They've done a great job of putting those up, putting fences around them, and putting cameras there. It all goes back to people will act right if they think somebody's watching, or if they think they're going to have a ticket. A lot of that litter that is thrown out, or the dumpster problem, comes from out of parish. If you'll notice, the dumpsters you see the biggest problem around are the ones on the outlying areas. This summer, I tasked out the school resource officers to watch some of the dump sites when they weren't in school. They wrote some tickets, but it's one of those deals, if you don't stay on top of it, it goes right back to the way it was. Another thing I've committed to, we will have a organized litter enforcement whenever I take office.
And Mr. Webb.
Litter is a huge issue. I've been hearing that for several years. I've noticed it myself. It was kind of funny when I was a patrol deputy, people would throw out beer cans in my ditch in front of my house all the time when I had a unit parked out.
Sure.
But the garbage bins, it seems like the garbage locations, bin locations along US 80 on the far west side of the parish and the far east side of the parish catch everything. They're a mess. I propose that, when I come, Sheriff, that I'm going to camp out a deputy on those for sure and see how many tickets we can write. And I know they've done that in the past. I don't know if they're still working that, but the police jury was reimbursing the sheriff's office for the deputies working that. But you can go anywhere in this parish and there is literally just trash everywhere in the ditches. And of course the grass is a little bit high in some places right now and you can't see the trash from the grass, but that's nothing that the sheriff's office do. That's the police jury, and they have a lot of miles of road to take care of, and we're not throwing rocks at them for that. But there is a lot of trash out there in those ditches, and I'm going to have a litter ban. Sheriff's office is going to be written on the side of it, and we're going to try to get some of those less violent offenders that have been sentenced from the detention center, and we're going to go out and pick some trash up. Work with the judges and see if we can get them to, assign, sentence some people to litter pickup. We have some juveniles that get in trouble sometimes, and maybe we can use them on Saturdays to get out and pick up some litter. The older teenagers that are, we can sentence them through juvenile court. Thank you.
All right. Casey, how many chairs do we have set up? Roughly? How many chairs do we have set up? About 300. Okay. We committed to y'all to not keep you here all night, although I'm sure that if these fellows would be glad to visit with you individually on anything that we didn't touch on. You have been listening to them and visiting with them for a little over an hour. And we thank you for it. I've been in this business a long time, in this newspaper business. I can't tell you the last time I saw 300 citizens at a political event. And so we at the Russell Leaders applaud you for your participation tonight and the interest that you obviously show in this race. We did want to thank our candidates again, Mr. Hermes, Mr. Webb, and Mr. Williams, for your time and for offering yourself for office for the folks of Lincoln Parish. So let's thank them all for being here and for the next one of these forums will be Monday night here in the same location, same format, and it will feature the police jury candidates from districts 1, 2, 3, and 4.